Hello everyone, this is Showtime 112. In Operation Desert Storm, the coalition forces were mostly based south of Iraq and Kuwait. Hundreds of aircraft were deployed to Saudi Arabia and other Gulf nations. The Northern Front against Iraq isn't necessarily the first thing that comes to mind, but it was certainly a lot more than just a sideshow. The temporary 7440th Composite Wing of the US Air Force Europe consisted of more than 100 aircraft deployed to Incirlik, Turkey, and its main strike component included F-111s and F-16s. A very interesting fact is that 4 F-4E Phantoms were also deployed, and they flew some of the type's last combat sorties. Strike aircraft were complemented by various support aircraft, while the air superiority task was assigned to F-15C, most of them from 525th Tactical Fighter Squadron from Bitburg, Germany. Turkish government was reluctant to allow operations against Iraq, and they only gave their permission on 16 January 1991. As the result, operations from the north were a day late. Weather was another problem, so the first daylight sortie for the Composite Wing from Incirlik was only launched on 19 January, day 3 of the war. 16 F-16s were sent to attack the Kirkuk airfield complex. Their fighter escort consisted of 2 4-ship flights of F-15C, call signs Rambo and Conan. Rambo flight was led by Captain Steve Dingy, with Captain Larry Ludwig as his wingman. Numbers 3 and 4 in the flight were Captain David Prather and Lieutenant David Sweden. The flight was about 20 miles ahead of the strikers, in high 20s at about 0.9 Mach. They were in the wall formation with about 2 miles spacing. The Conan flight was about 5 miles to their east. The Eagles pushed towards the target at 12:43 and entered Iraqi airspace. Their job was made more difficult by the fact that there were 3 active Iraqi Air Force airbases on their route. They were supposed to be attacked, but these attacks were cancelled because of bad weather. AWACS then called 2 bandits, and the Eagles were soon able to see them on their own radars. The Iraqi aircraft then turned away, and American pilots could see them drift to the right. The flight leader, Captain Steve Gunga Dingy, then chose to pursue them, and the Rambo flight turned southwest. As the result, numbers 3 and 4, Prather and Sweden, were now ahead of number 1 and 2 in their flight. The 2 Iraqi pilots then turned towards the Eagles, and Lieutenant Sweden locked one of them up. The rules of engagement was that if AWACS confirmed the contact was abandoned, and if IFF interrogation gave no response, it could be considered hostile and attacked. Since AWACS had been calling them bandits all along, Sweden was confident they would soon be able to launch their missiles. As the range went down to 22 miles, Sweden reminded the leader that the plan was to drop tanks within 25 miles of the enemy. Everyone then dropped their wing tanks, since centerline ones were not carried on this mission. The flight then performed textbook communication, probably the best of all the Desert Storm kills.
Rambo 3 has a side-side breakout on the nose for 20. Rambo 1, same. Rambo 3 sorted side at 7,000. Rambo 1, same, 9,000.
As the bandits approached within 15 miles, Sweden was wondering why the lead still hadn't given the order to shoot. Captain Dingy, however, contacted AWACS for another confirmation. No confirmation came, but Lieutenant Sweden had no doubt, having heard AWACS calling this contact bandits at least 4 times. At 12 miles, he decided to launch an AIM-7. He had never launched a missile before, having only about 180 hours on the jet until then. He looked south and saw that number 3, Captain David Prather, had also launched a Sparrow. Prather's Bandit was just flying straight, while Sweden's maneuvered north, apparently doing an evasive action. At about 4 miles, the Iraqi aircraft turned back towards Sweden, and the F-15 pilot launched his second Sparrow. But only a couple of seconds later, his first Sparrow hit the target. This was followed by the second missile. Almost simultaneously, Prather's missile hit the other Bandit. Until that moment, American pilots didn't know the type of aircraft which they fought. The flight lead then called a northern turn, and Lieutenant Sweden was able to see a Mirage F-1 going towards the ground. Captain Prather had in fact launched 3 Sparrow missiles. His first one went stupid, so he launched 2 more in a quick succession. US intelligence monitored the Iraqi pilots' radio communications. The Mirage flight with call sign Lion consisted of an experienced major and an inexperienced lieutenant. The major was reluctant to engage the F-15s, while the lieutenant wanted to fight. He witnessed his leader receiving the hits and had enough time to report, "Lion 1 is no more," over the radio. Neither pilot was able to eject. Those were kills number 11 and 12 for the coalition in Desert Storm. If you liked the video, be sure to press the like button. Support the channel on Patreon if you want to make sure content such as this comes up regularly, and keep watching Showtime 112.